Hi, thank you for tuning in to I Stand with Zambia YouTube channel. My name is Mwansa. This channel has no political affiliation, but it is 100% affiliated with being a Zambian. You know, when I was growing up in the United States, we had a calendar, and this calendar was a Zambia Airways calendar. Now, this was before I knew we were Zambians, because growing up in the United States, I just didn't know. But I do remember when we were playing in the hallway, and there would be this calendar, and it was a Zambia Airways calendar, and one slogan on the calendar was Zambia, the real Africa. I must have been like, what, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years old. And I just remember looking at that calendar thinking, wow, that is amazing. Like, that's so amazing. And so that slogan of Zambia, the real Africa, even today, it just sticks with me. So today's program is about Zambia Airways. I found some really nice images and some stories about the people who worked at the airline, the national carrier for Zambia. And so I wanted to share that. But then I also found a really cool YouTube channel by a guy named Maangwe Shimunzhila. Okay, and his YouTube channel is called QR10 Media. I want you to check it out. Now, as much as I would love to have, for nostalgic reasons and just, just being able to have our national carrier fly once again, I was happy to hear that the airline would be coming back, the national carrier, because there was a lot of people who argued that at the time it was liquidated. It didn't have to be. It just needed to be reorganized. The reason being that the airline had a number of assets around the world, which, if sold off, could have been used to reinvest inside Zambia Airways, thus retaining the national carrier. But it was privatized, okay? So hearing that the current administration want to bring it back, I'm like, yay! But then I saw this video by Maangwe on his page, and he was just like giving the sober business economic truth about why, as much as he and us would want to see it come back, it has to be in an environment that is conducive, and so his concern and what he's telling us in his video is how economically the business management, the business aspect of this reintroducing of the airline and at this current time isn't good for Zambia. So I'm going to tag his video about after I sort of, take you down memory lane. I'm going to put his video in. He explained it so well. It was sobering for me. And I thought, yeah, like, I don't want to have the airline come and then it just flunks. So he explains it really good. I'm going to put his video in, and I recommend you go check out his YouTube channel, QR10 Media. He's got a lot of, he's an economist. So, he's breaking it down, okay? Recommend him. Awesome Zambian, awesome patriot, and I definitely believe that he is standing with his economic expertise to make sure that the best of Zambia is promoted and the best of Zambia is shared with other Zambians, okay? So let's get into the video right now. Zambia Airways, the national carrier for the Republic of Zambia, was officially launched in 1967. Its first airline was a BAC 111, which was delivered in 1968. It served Kenya, Malawi, Tanzania, and Zaire. In November 1968, Zambia Airways had leased a DC-8 from Air Italia, and this enabled Zambia Airways to fly from Lusaka to London. Air Italia played a really important role in the early days of Zambia Airways. Laurencia Nalyambai Litia was receiving training from Air Italia as an air hostess to serve in Zambia Airways in the 1970s. There were a number of captains who flew and manned the Zambia Airways aircrafts. Some of them included Captain Stanley Mulela, Captain George Grebes, and Captain Joshua Sikasula. In this photograph, we can see him here giving some training to a new recruit. Captain Chimbelu, seen here on the left, joined Zambia Airways in 1971. He served as a co-pilot and was sent by Zambia Airways to Perth in Scotland, where he received training as a pilot until 1973. He's seen in this photograph together with Captain Mukosa. On June 7, 1976, the famous Boeing 737 was delivered to Lusaka, Zambia. A couple of years later, in 1981, there's a story of Captain Sakala. Captain Sakala flew the 737 into Johannesburg. Around this time, as you know, South Africa was dealing with the apartheid system. So when he parked the plane in Johannesburg, a white man who was an employee at the airport in South Africa entered the plane and asked for the captain. Captain Sakala introduced himself as the captain, obviously leaving a priceless expression on the white man's face. Word soon went round the airport that there was a Zambian who had landed with his Boeing jet plane, and when Captain Sakala went into a shop at the airport to buy a newspaper, a black South African woman ran up to him and embraced him. This was a moment, it is said, where she said to him, "This is giving us hope. This is what Zambia was and who Zambia is." Now, I want you to have a look at this map here. Zambia Airways was the airline that connected the sub-region of Africa with the rest of the world. It also connected sub-regional African nations with one another. For example, ANC fighters living in Johannesburg would book a flight with Zambia Airways to go to the rest of the world. There was also the independence struggle within Namibia. There was the independence struggle within Harare. All of these nationals would use Zambia Airways to connect between countries and to connect internationally. Now, if you look to the right, you can see that Zambia Airways went to Jeddah. Jeddah is in Saudi Arabia. The reason why Zambia Airways went to Jeddah was because within the southern region of Africa, there were a number of Muslims. And so they would make their homage to Mecca, and the only airline that would get them there within the Southern African region was Zambia Airways. If you look to the left at the top, you can see that Zambia Airways also went to Monrovia in Libya. This was a profitable route at the time because there were a lot of Libyans who were seeking asylum in America. There's a large Liberian community in the United States. And so this is how your national carrier was making a difference in countries that were fighting for independence, helping them get around to the rest of the world. It really is just simply amazing. This is why we are Zambia, the real Africa. This is Captain Charles Mbilika. He was the first president of the Zambian Pilots Association. In Ndeke House, was the headquarters for Zambia Airways. It was also, or still is, the current headquarters of the Ministry of Health. In 1980, a young 22-year-old Victor Lemba from Kitwe was sent as a cadet in Australia, the Australian Flying Training School, giving him lessons on how to fly an aircraft. Okay, now buckle your seatbelt and fold in your tray tables, ladies and gentlemen, because in 1984, July, the big DC-10 arrives in Zambia. It was the pinnacle of Zambia Airlines fleet. Okay. The aircraft, nicknamed the Inkwazi, was received by Managing Director Oliver Chama and Chief Pilot Captain Mr. Malundika. Zambia was the 6th African nation to order this aircraft, and this aircraft enabled flights to go from Lusaka to New York City. There's one last person that I would like to highlight, and that is Mr. Jacob Chisela. Mr. Jacob Chisela is now late. He passed away in 2018. However, this is a audio recording of him featuring on Blog Talk Radio back in 2014, where he was talking about his time at Zambia Airways.
The one furthest away from us. But Chisela, how long did you work for Zambia Airways, and what exactly were you doing there?
Okay, I worked for Zambia Airways from 1971 until the day of liquidation. So I gathered 23 years of service. My training and eventual career was in aircraft maintenance. I started off as a very young person, barely 21 years old, and was trained in the maintenance processes of the aircraft, going through places like Beirut in Lebanon, which had a TWA school, then Italy, which we used to call Mama Italia, who provided technical support to Zambia Airways, and later on Air Zingas, which took over from Alitalia and changed the aircraft,
Wow.
introduced the Boeings, and later with Ethiopian, who also continued with the Boeing aircraft, and after 1988, Zambia Airways stood on its own. I went through all these phases up to the last day. At the time of closure of the airline, I was the aircraft maintenance manager, having gone through the ranks, rising slowly from a propeller repairman to the engine assembly person to the superintendent of maintenance to the manager of aircraft.
Wow.
That's basically what I went through in the 23 years.
Wow, that is just simply amazing. Taking you back to 1971, this is a photograph of the foundation stone that was laid for the Zambia Airways Corporation to open a training center, which was officially opened in June 1972. Some of the reasons for the collapse of Zambia Airways are listed as follows. First of all, Zambia Airways was never instructed by the creditors to close. It was a voluntary liquidation that the Chiluba MMD government did. Others said that there were also too many managers, and these managers, some of them lived in foreign countries. There was also the issue of there being over 2,000 staff for a fleet of only 7 planes. Another concern was the unstable value of the kwacha. This made it difficult for the airline to purchase jet fuel. It also caused administrative problems when Zambia Airways had to complete the clearinghouse process. What is the clearinghouse process? Let's say you book a ticket from Lusaka to Los Angeles with Zambia Airways. Zambia Airways will take you from Lusaka to New York City. Zambia Airways does not fly to Los Angeles. Therefore, once you get to New York City, you're going to have to change to American Airlines that will take you the rest of the leg to Los Angeles. But when you bought your ticket in Zambia, you paid Zambia Airways. So the clearing process is the process in which Zambia Airways has to clear the payment that American Airlines are due for them carrying you from New York to Los Angeles. It's basically airlines paying another airline their share of the ticket money to carry you for the rest of the leg for your journey. Now, in the case of Zambia Airways, because the currency kept on fluctuating, let's say maybe somebody bought their ticket when the kwacha was maybe for $1, you gotta pay 2 kwacha. And maybe by the time the clearing process takes place, like 30 days later, maybe the kwacha has depreciated. So now, instead of paying the airline based on the 2 kwacha to a pound to $1 rate, you're now having to pay them 5 kwacha to $1 rate. So the clearing process works with being paid at the current exchange rate. So with the fluctuation of the kwacha, Zambia Airways was losing out because they were having to cover the difference. I'm now going to play you the video by economist Maangwe Shimunzhila. He has a YouTube page, OR10 Media. I think I said Q in the beginning. That's wrong. It's OR10 Media. He's going to give us his thoughts on the relaunch of Zambia Airways.
That month. In a recent quest to relaunch Zambian Airways, the PF government, in conjunction with the Ethiopian Airways, made an agreement to re-establish Zambian Airways on the 24th of October 2018. But in August, both parties agreed to delay the launch to 1st January 2019. Ethiopian Airlines on the 20th August 2018 signed a definitive agreement with the Zambian Industrial Corporation, the IDC, to acquire 45% shareholding to our national airline for $30 million. The plan is to operate 12 planes by 2028. Early 2019, the relaunch was delayed a second time as the airline's new board of directors had not yet met. In August 2019, the government delayed the relaunch of the airline again after the Zambia's Center for Trade Policy and Development suggested that the airline should not be relaunched until Zambia was in a better economical state. Despite all the advice against reopening the airline, 25 flight attendants were sent to Ethiopian Aviation Academy for 3 months training. What's our economic view on this? From our point of view, this project is not viable. We are not ready for this kind of risky and costly investment. If anything, this is the right time before we waste any more time to cancel the 45 and 55% joint venture shareholders agreement with the Ethiopian Airlines. This can be possible, citing the enormous losses made in this industry due to the COVID-19. In this period and a few years before the COVID-19 pandemic, this industry in Africa has been unprofitable. Despite calls from professional stakeholders not to launch this loss-making business, the PF government has turned a deaf ear. Instead, the cabin crew continued their training in Ethiopia and have since returned back home. While even before the airline is launched, an Ethiopian chief executive officer who lives in Addis Ababa has already been employed and is getting a huge salary. This PF government should explain why such programs are ongoing. We know that even before COVID-19, the aviation industry in Africa was already making losses. The Kenyan and the South African airlines were already making huge losses. We should remember that the South African Treasury in 2017 intended to bail out South African Airways with more than $900 million due to its liquidity challenges. And here we have the PF government showing us that they do not care for the Zambians. This project is a loss even before takeoff. Remember also that roughly $30 million has already been paid by IDC to establish Zambian Airways and many other known costs to the public. The question here is, what are the hidden agendas of pushing for this business? Who are the few beneficiaries in this move at the expense of the whole Zambian population? Yes, it's a good business, but at a very wrong time. According to Diggers News of 17th May 2020, and I quote, last month, Transport and Communications Minister Mutotwe Kafwaya announced that the already much delayed launch of the national carrier Zambia Airways has been pushed back yet again because of the coronavirus pandemic. Speaking in his constituency recently, Honorable Kafwaya said that the COVID-19 pandemic had affected the business and the aviation industry had been badly affected. As a result, it was not an ideal time to launch the airline. End of quote. Our advice to the minister and the government is that few years before the COVID-19 pandemic, when the idea of launching Zambian Airways originated from whoever we don't know, it was a wrong idea all in all. The originator of this idea was self-centered, because there's no way you can enforce a business that is a loss-making industry against the advice of almost all the technocrats like the Zambia Center for Trade Policy and Development. The Daily Maverick reported, and I quote, it will cost Zambia $700,000 every month in aircraft leasing charges. the government is facing heavy criticism over the decision with concerns focused on the business plan, which is closely guarded secret. A senior member of the ruling Patriotic Front Central Committee also questioned the role that the President Edgar Lungu is playing in this project, saying it was pushed through without consulting the party's top structures. End of quote. From this article, you notice that there is disagreement even amid the government officials on this issue. The Economic Association of Zambia hosted a public discussion on the best economic model for a national airline, of which I was in attendance as requested by the EAZ on the 22nd February 2018. It was at this meeting where the government representatives got so embarrassed. They came to present a proposal to economists ill-prepared, and they neither had a business plan. We dismissed their proposal and suggested that Zambia was not ready for such a project. But surprisingly enough, despite all this counsel, the PF government is still pushing for this project. It's time we offer listening ears as a government. Use the advice from the qualified technocrats, because at the end of the day, Zambia needs not to shrink the economy, but to grow.
Thank you very much for watching. This is I Stand with Zambia YouTube channel. Please remember to like, share, and to subscribe.